Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Botter, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, Collective Con. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of Collective Con, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Only at Collective Con. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at Collective Con this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at Collective Con that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at Collective Con, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show.
Freaks and geeks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are y'all ready for a show tonight? Make some noise, y'all. All right, we're going to try that again. We're going to make some energy in this building. If y'all ready for the show tonight, I need y'all to make all the noise in the world, y'all. There we go. Hey, my name is Master P. I'm going to be back here hosting from the back, but right now, I would like everybody to put their hands together for our guest speaker tonight. He is the head honcho of Black Hive Tattoo, Jacksonville's premier appointment-only custom tattoo studio, a very proud sponsor of the show we're all here to see tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Nick Wagner.
Hey guys, I know they really appreciate coming out. Probably wish I didn't show up, but whatever, I'm here. I've been working with these kids, and I say kids, I'm older than Cesar. He's even a kid to me. But I started with Drew and Botter, and they invited me over, and I was so excited, and I got to that janky ass garage that was full of spiders. Full of spiders. I'm pretty sure they thought that if they stuck it out long enough, they were going to end up being Spider-Man. I think they just got spider bit. It was messed up. But it was fun, and I stuck with them since then. I was like their first guest. I was their first Patreon subscriber. Unfortunately, I wasn't their first corporate sponsor. I couldn't jump in before Ben, but I'm happy to sponsor it, and I'm happy to see all you here because I know they really appreciate it. Everybody that is here, but it couldn't come, it means a lot to them. And watching them build it and do it and really enjoy it has been important to me, just as a guy who grew up in this neighborhood in Riverside, and watching these kids go from buying comics where I was working to buying comics where I owned it and then doing their own thing. It's been really cool to watch. But at the risk of rambling too much, without further ado, we're going to pass it back to Mass, and he's going to get them set up so you can see who you came here for.
All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can, get up out of your seats, make all the noise in the world for the Short Box Crew.
Cheers.
How about we give it up for Nick Wagner for that? Thank you. And let's go ahead and give the DJ some too. DJ Master Appeal in the back. Whew, I'm getting winded. That was a far run.
This guy's on a raised sort of thing over here. Do you guys notice this?
I don't notice anything at all except for all this great view I'm seeing over here. All right, and I also want to give real quick a big shout out to the
your ego,
to the Mosh team, to myself. I want to also give can we get a round of applause for the team here at Mosh?
Come on!
For being kind enough to host us in this amazing venue instead of laughing us out the door when I told them what we wanted to do. Much appreciated. Thank you, Brett. Thank you so much. I also want to thank all of you for joining us for this live recording. It'll be released.
This is amazing.
Excellent timing, Mass. This episode will be released next Wednesday for any of you that want to show your friends how you spent your Friday night, you bunch of nerds. Well, look, to the 4 family members that we paid to be here that just cheered, thank you so much for that. But I want to ask, before we really get started with the recording, how many of you are familiar with the podcast or claim to be true blue fans of the Short Box? Can I get a raise of hands? Okay, once again, the 4 family members that we paid. I'm going to ask you guys, well, I'll be looking to the folks that are familiar with the show to help me bring in the podcast in my usual opener. You guys know what I'm talking about. To all of you new faces, what I'll ask you guys to do on the count of 3.
Is this really happening?
Oh, it's definitely happening. You didn't think I was going to take advantage of all these lovely faces?
I did. I guess I was mistaken.
On the count of 3, we're all going to say yo in unison, and then we'll really get
You know how to
this
say
started.
it.
All
Let's
right?
not pretend.
All right. On the count of 3, all right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah! Damn. Go. Mass permanent DJ forever.
Sit down. There are
Permanent
children.
DJ forever. Oh, no. Short Box Nation.
That feels good.
Yeah, it does. It damn sure does, man. It feels even better to be able to say that and actually see the faces that we're talking about. I see a lot of familiar faces, too. I mean, we've got Warren Evans, host of Simpsons is Greater Than podcast.
Yeah, you hear me? See me? Stop, please. Stop.
We got Brown Santa in the house, looking like a mess.
Why are you drunk already?
Clean yourself.
Unacceptable.
What a mess. This will be a very special live edition of the podcast this week. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the show. You've chosen an excellent episode to kickstart your journey with us. I am but one of your hosts today. I'm probably the best humble host that you'll ever meet. My name is Bob.
He won an award, but he gave it back because he's so humble.
People's choice. And tonight, I'm joined by my crew of talented friends and co-hosts who make up the rest of the Short Box crew. First up, and on my left, is my right-hand man and everyone's favorite web-slinging senior citizen. It's Cesar Cordero, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. The knees hurt. Next up is the man responsible for this episode's amazing artwork that has graced this planetarium. That's right.
There are prints outside for sale.
Yeah, for sure. We'll buy it.
Remember, you clapped.
Even Picasso has called him a genius. His words, not mine, I promise. It's the Edbot 5000 himself. Ladies and gents, let's give it up for Edmund Danzart. Ashley, you know I'm going to do it to you. And last, but certainly not least,
Here it comes.
is the reason why we have any cool points at all, because Lord knows we need help in that department. Ladies and gents, it is the Duchess of the Short Box herself.
Duchess.
She has blessed us with her presence today. Let's give it up for Ashley Lanny-Hoy. I said, let's give it up for Ashley Lanny-Hoy. And shout out to them late people that just joined. I see you. Try to sneak in. All right. So tonight we'll be discussing the row gallery of everyone's favorite webhead,
I'm sorry, Massive, you're going to pull them up. Tonight we'll be discussing the rogue gallery of everyone's favorite webhead and superhero that's both cursed and blessed with great power and responsibility. This will be just in time. We're celebrating the upcoming release of the Spider-Man No Way Home movie. It'll be debuting next Thursday, December 16th. Hopefully you guys have gotten your tickets, because at this point, it's probably not looking good. But hopefully you guys got your tickets. We'll be putting a spotlight on the villains that have been confirmed to be in the movie, which include Doc Ock, Electro, Sandman, the Lizard, and the Green Goblin, all of which the original actors are reprising the roles for this movie. Of course, that's what we know. That could change when the movie comes out. But that's what's been made public knowledge according to trailers and the different posters that we've seen. We will each spotlight one of these villainous counterparts of the web slinger in hopes of understanding what makes them tick and how they make Spider-Man a better hero. Because after all, a hero is only as good as his villains, right? And we'll also be debuting the world premiere of the Short Box documentary. A project.
Talk to him.
Cesar's been waiting for this one. It's a project that we've been working on for the last 2+ years to spotlight and highlight the going on 9. It'll be 9 years of the podcast on the 15th of this month, 10 years next month. But Cesar's going to do a much better job explaining all of that at the end of the show.
Any delays are COVID related, so thoughts and prayers, guys. He'll come out 5 years from now. We don't know.
And honestly, I mean, what better way to do an episode like this? I mean, we're in an amazing venue in front
This is amazing.
We're joined by the four. That's going to be awesome.
For those that are drinking at home, take a shot every time you hear "amazing," to include whenever we refer to Spider-Man.
Oh wow, that's good. Okay,
You didn't even pick that up, did you?
No, I did not. You got me there. But we're joined by the full might of the Short Box in this planetarium tonight, listeners. For those of you at home tuning in, this episode is being recorded live from the Brian Gooding Planetarium in the Museum of Science History here in Jacksonville, Florida. You could definitely give it up for that. We're in front of a good-looking live audience filled with new faces. We got friends of the show, and even some Short Box alumni that have been on the podcast themselves. I'm sure all the new faces are probably thinking, what the hell have I gotten myself into?
Whoa, language, man. There are children present. Watch
what
your
the
damn
heck
mouth.
have I gotten myself into? Why am I strapped to this chair? Why have the exits been blocked off? New faces, you're in for a ride, I promise you, all right? And listeners, you can see what we're talking about for yourself by checking out the photos and the videos that we'll share from this event. We've got our man Corey Torgerson snapping some flicks. We'll have that up on our socials here. And, can we get a round of applause for Corey? I mean, yo, look.
All the way from
If you have
Tampa.
any questions about anything kaiju related, Corey is your guy. And I think he relates to them so much because of how tall he is. So easy, sir. Easy. It's the holidays.
I also want to go, before we get started, I do want to go ahead and give a big shout out to our sponsors for this event.
Absolutely.
Gotham City Limit. Ben couldn't be here, unfortunately. But, of course, we've got Nick Wagner of Black Hive Tattoo in the building. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. I think Ryan just walked out to clean himself up, which is probably advised. But Gam is also here.
Clean himself up.
But Gam also helped out with this event. As you guys might have noticed, they were doing a toy drive, Toys for Tots. So, brought some good karma to the event tonight. So, appreciate
Lord
our
knows we
sponsors
need it.
big time. Yeah, for sure, right? One more thing. We even got the voice that you keep hearing, that this is amazing.
This is amazing.
The voice that you're hearing tonight, I also want to give a special shout out because we even got, Andrew, I'm going to need you to stand up for this one. We even got Andrew Torres in the building as well.
This is amazing.
Andrew is an OG host of the podcast, if you didn't know. But nowadays, you got to pay to hear him on the podcast, but he decided to go ahead and waive his appearance fee for tonight. So count yourselves lucky, all right?
Still costs money.
Yeah. But I think that's enough time spent stalling for stragglers. Let's go ahead and get on with the main event and talk about one of the best rogue galleries in comic books. I'm going to go ahead and let Ashley kick us off. And Ashley, if you don't mind talking about what villain you got assigned or ended up choosing and why you ended up choosing them.
So I went with Sandman, born William Baker, turned Flint Marko. As a bad guy. I went with him. I don't know if it's because I just watched a lot of Wings when I was growing up.
Yes.
But Lowell showed up in Spider-Man 3. It was the best part of the movie for me. So I went with him, and I read a really good Sandman story, learned a lot about him, and definitely think he's important to the Spider-Man Rogue Gallery.
Would you say, so it sounds like the movie version is probably your favorite iteration of the character, right?
Yeah, so it really is, but also there was a Chip Zdarsky Bacalo Spectacular Spider-Man storyline that I really enjoyed, where he's sort of like passing away and Spider-Man is like at his bedside and he's going over his life and things like that. So he's just really interesting because it's like he could have been a good guy if things had gone differently for him.
Yo, this is Botter. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox Store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And then I mentioned that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material. None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show. And we got the cover to the comic, I believe, that you read pulled up. Can you give us like just a short overview of what the premise was about? And what made you enjoy it at that?
Well, I think it's just the idea of he had a rough life, and then he got these powers, and essentially he just wanted to make a bunch of money, and Spider-Man just, I guess, didn't want him to be like a prosperous, rich, happy person. But there is good in him. So in this story, he's kind of in a hospital bed dying, and Spider-Man is like, they're just having a heart to heart. And I think that's why he's such a good villain, because I think Spider-Man sees this guy isn't like all evil. If he had a different road, he could have ended up a different way.
Do you think the movies have encapsulated that or portrayed that accurately?
I think that it really did. I mean, as many problems as, Spider-Man 3 had, I really liked the way that Sandman was portrayed in it.
What do you think makes... would you say Sandman makes Spider-Man a better hero in any way, or any specific way?
I do think he makes him a better hero, and I think it's just because, like, there was a story where Sandman needed help, so he went to Spider-Man. He's like, I trust you, I know you're a good guy, and I just think that that's, like, really cool, because, Sandman kind of jumps the line. I love those villains that you don't know what they're going to do next, because they could trick you, or they could be a good guy. And he's so fun because in the comic series, he goes back and forth between good guy and a bad guy.
What about as far as like, because actually you're a stupendous artist. Like, is there anything from a design perspective? Because, I always thought that Sandman was one of the more visually appealing villains of Spider-Man, just being able to do, basically anything he puts his mind to, controlling sand. What do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure it's got to be super hard to draw, but like that Bacalo run is like some of the coolest Sandman art I've ever seen, because it is just him like manipulating sand. In those old like Ditko comics, it was like, hey, he's made of sand, but his shirt is colored sand. It just looks like a shirt. But I think nowadays with like this, computer artwork that everyone can do, it's much more interesting.
I think outside of and Ed, you'll be talking about it, but Doc Ock's suit 80s power suit period. I think Sandman's probably got the best fashion sense in all of Spider-Man.
Brown pants, green shirt, horizontal stripes. I don't know.
Actually, what are some recommendations that you'd give as far as like maybe reading material when it comes to someone interested in diving more into Sandman or feeling like that same kind of connection?
So I read probably like 5 Sandman stories before I stuck on this one. I read a lot of not so great ones, but this Zdarsky Spectacular Spider-Man 308 and 309 was really, really good. So that's definitely my favorite one. There's a lot of them that promise like the super awesome Sandman story, and then it just wasn't that great. So I'd say if you've never read it anymore, you could just read these 2 issues and kind of get like, the feels for Sandman.
That's good stuff. So you'll be rooting pretty loudly when Sandman makes his first appearance in this brand new movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They'll be like, ma'am, you got to get out of here. You can't be the only one rooting for Sandman. Sandman? No, that's good stuff. Ed, I'm going to go to you next because, as I mentioned, you've got our boy Doc Ock on this one. Why'd you end up going with Doc Ock?
Well, Doc Ock, I don't know if I have to be as formal as you. First appearance, July 1963, Amazing Spider-Man number 3. He's the first villain I remember reading as a kid. He's, like I said, heavy guy with glasses, mad at the world.
Stop.
It's a relatable guy.
You're wearing a green shirt.
I'm wearing green. I mean, he did get ripped in Secret Wars.
No idea where you're getting at.
He did get ripped.
He got ripped in the 90s in Extreme, but he still kept that sweet bowl cut. But yeah, Doc Ock was one of the first ones I remember. He's had even going to like that Superior Spider-Man, he actually became Spider-Man. So just the relationship they had, he's like the first leader of the Sinister Six. I've always liked the design. I've always liked, Ditko's kind of creepy. He's kind of just a creepy looking guy with glasses. But like I said, he's one of my favorite villains, and he's just had such an interesting dynamic with Spider-Man because you can see the parallels. They're both scientists. They're both, radioactivity related, heroes or characters. So you could see Spider-Man going down that road. You can see they're almost like two different sides of a similar coin, and they're kind of. And their kind of relationship gets even weirder, especially with the superior Spider-Man, and then with some things where their relationship almost takes like a Lex Luthor Superman dynamic, where nobody, I'm the guy. If anyone's going to defeat Spider-Man or end Spider-Man's life, it has to be me. I have that. He has that kind of bravado and arrogance. So it's just, and he's had such interesting looks over the years. So I think he's just, I don't know. I just think he's like my favorite villain that he has.
He always struck me as like the nerd that would take no crap no matter what. And he had he had the arsenal to back it up at that. What would you say is your favorite iteration of Doc Ock? And what do you think about the movie's portrayal of him at that?
I like the Alfred Molina. I think he's a great actor. I really enjoyed, and it's been a while since I've watched it, but I liked his portrayal of Doc Ock in that movie. Is a lot more depth than you would expect from comic book movies at that time. As far as my favorite versions, I got to go with the original Ditko. I mean, that stuff is really cool, really creepy. I do like, and we go to the extreme 90s. I do like Eric Larson's version with the white suit, where he's kind of more of a mobster look to him. Yeah. Really cool look. There. And then the Humberto Ramos, like his run pre-Superior, this version with the Matrix leather coat, and then and then when he gets really creepy, when he's like basically in almost like an iron lung, he's just like a head in like a in a box with arms coming out. That's so creepy. And with Humberto Ramos is kind of like his kind of a cartoony, cute style, but he really did a cool, creepy Doc Ock. So.
You're cartoony and cute to me, Ed.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
I'm just worried Ed wants to be in a box with arms coming out.
I want 4 arms that I can control with my mind.
So Ed, what was the comic or the series that you ended up reading to prep for this one?
There's one that's kind of gets overlooked because it's sandwiched in that horrible Clone Saga stuff from the 90s called Web of Death.
Delicious.
That's it's a 4-issue story arc across 2 titles, which Marvel, man, come on. And it's basically Vulture poisons Spider-Man, and he's showing the effects, but Doc Ock actually ends up saving his life because he's like, you deserve a better death than this. You're not going to let you get poisoned and die. So he basically saves his life, and that kind of changes their dynamic to that kind of Lex Luthor Superman dynamic, where it's like, nope, you're going to die by my hands if you're going to die at all. So it's interesting, and that's where I think Kane makes his debut, and just like snaps his neck in one panel and just
not the wrestler Kane.
No, not that guy. That would have been awesome. I preferred the wrestler Kane. But that's a really in that kind of bizarre era of Spider-Man, that's a pretty cool little standout miniseries.
Yeah, to add to your point, Doc Ock has had, and we're on first name basis, so I can call him Doc Ock.
Otto.
Fine. Otto. That. But he's, to me, a very versatile villain for Spider-Man, because he has kind of gone through the gamut as far as like not only costume changes, but also like they've always kind of played around with his character, even at one point like having him replace Spider-Man himself. And and Ed, you mentioned, but that series was called Superior Spider-Man, which holds a really close place to me, because the first episode that we ever recorded for the podcast, news had leaked that they planned to kill off Peter Parker and have or Otto Octavius replace him as Spider-Man in a very kind of convoluted, metaphysical kind of like brain and essence.
It was like a Freaky Friday body switch.
Yeah, essentially. And I remember me, Drew, and Walt driving to record this first episode, nervous as heck, trying to figure out like what's going to be our topics. And as we're pulling up to the spider-infested, broken down, condemned barn to record, I think it was Drew that was like, "You guys won't believe this. They're killing Peter Parker for Doc Ock." And I mean, if you listen back to that first episode, it's like 40 minutes of us being hardcore fanboys and angry nerds. It was insane. So, but I mean, we ended up growing to really love that series and like eating our own words like big time. And Ed, I wanted to hear you kind of go into a little more detail about it, but how would you say Doc Ock makes Spider-Man a better hero?
Well, like you even said, earlier, I think the similarities of the two characters and their like just kind of going different paths in life, I think that makes it, interesting. I just think the history, he's like the third villain I think Spider-Man's ever faced. So he has the history. He's got, like I said, he brings out reactions like this where Spider-Man just loses his shit and just beats the hell out of him. And I don't know if any other villains really kind of brought this, especially this is like, Romita Senior 80s stuff. This is like he beat him so bad he was afraid of spiders. That's how bad he beat up Dr. Octopus.
Put some respect on his name.
Yeah, no, he was afraid of actual spiders. He got beat up so bad. There's another one, I think a Romita, where Spider-Man just rips his arms out, and he slept with his aunt. Do you guys remember that? Did you guys read that?
Yeah, I mean that's how we got it.
Oh my God, anyone has that kind of can garner this kind of emotion out of.
Hello, Peter, it's me.
Yeah. Oh my God,
you're not my real dad.
So just the fact now, I know they've, when he basically Aunt May rented out a room for him, and they
so weird.
It's so weird. So they had it, and they do imply that they had an intimate relationship together. So
gross.
And the fact that if he came back after Superior, just having those memories, did he get some of Doc Ock's memories of that? I don't know.
I like that questions. I asked Ed.
So what if?
I like that I asked Ed. How he makes Spider-Man a better hero, and we've got images of him getting like straight smashed.
Yeah, this is heroic beating.
All right, Ed, you sent this image right here for me to add in your slide, and I'm curious why.
My dad would always say, that Dr. Octopus reminded him of Roy Orbison, and this is like younger Roy Orbison, not kind of the more bloated 80s Roy Orbison. So, I mean, it's pretty uncanny. Like, if he was younger and, he could have been on the that 70s Spider-Man TV show. where Spider-Man had a net and he just threw people into it. Oh, yeah. Like a circus net. So I just thought that was, for some reason, because like I said, my dad is the one who he got me into comics. He would always bring home a stack of comics from the dime bins when those existed, and the quarter bins and stuff, and it would be a bunch of this stuff. So like I would read all these, Romita Senior Spider-Mans, and and he'd always say that. He'd say it every time we talked about Spider-Man. So, but I just thought it was funny. I don't know.
That's awesome.
I don't know if anyone that's under 40 knows who Roy Orbison is.
Actually, where does Doc Ock rank in your list of Spider-Man villains?
He's all right.
Hater.
Well, we got Roy Orbison here in the building with us, and he's got something to say to you.
Ashley's just mad that he's not dressed like somebody from My Chemical Romance.
See, what about you? What does Doc Ock do for you?
Doc Ock is great. Yeah, the haircut. You can't get past it. I mean, all kidding aside, it's like Ed was basically hitting a lot of why Spider-Man is important, why he's awesome. And you could look at Dr. Octopus as some sort of weird reflection, right? Where like they're both children of science, or monsters of science, if you will, right? Where Peter got his powers sort of organically, and he's tied to an 8-legged thing. Doc Ock also got his powers sort of inorganically with technology, and
we didn't know what radiation really did to people.
Yeah, exactly.
In the 50s, it made everything big.
Right.
In the 60s, we got some powers.
So you have both of these guys on opposite end of the spectrum, right? The organic versus the inorganic, and that's why it's kind of neat to see them both fight each other, because you're like, a couple 8-legged, superheroes and villains, it would get old, but it doesn't, because right down to his outfit, he has metal arms, and it's like he's trying to make himself something that Peter is naturally. And he thinks he's doing the right thing, just like Peter. He thinks he's doing the right thing, but only one of them is right. So,
and if people wanted to read more about Doc Ock or get the best story, what would it be in your opinion? Where should they go?
And I know this is very divisive, but you got to. I think Superior is good as far as for something more contemporary, but I'd still, read the Ditko stuff, man. Get the original stuff, and that, The Web of Death, I would recommend that. So, like I said, and from pretty much those eras of comics, like I said, I always recommend going to the source, to the original, but, I can't argue with how like Dan Slott kind of pulled himself out of all that hate initially when he was planning this, because there was a lot. And I didn't even read it till after, because I was like, I don't want to deal with that. It's like that's ridiculous. But it ended up turning out being a very strong story and kind of a good write-off for that character. But of course, it's comics. He's back.
Yeah, cyclical. Good stuff. See, I'm gonna go to you next, because you decided to pick Electro, and you were
standing up.
We're serious.
You were filled.
I can't see this here.
You were filled with joy. I think I might have given you first pick, and you went with Electro, which was kind of a shock to me. So,
good night.
I got a clap out of that one.
Wow.
So, see, go ahead and tell us why you ended up picking Electro.
Typically, since I love film and movies, Mysterio would have been my guy, since he's a disgruntled special effects wizard. But I think this panel right here, you'll see it says, "Jewels, money. No matter how much I take, I want more, much more. With my great power, nothing can stop me from getting it." So I chose Electro because essentially, this is why Spider-Man is awesome, right? Spider-Man isn't awesome because he's got powers. He isn't cool because maybe he's a photographer or whatnot. He's cool because when put in the same situation that his villains are put in, he chose to do the right thing. They're all put in the same situation, right? They're not like, usually most Spider-Man bad guys aren't like mobsters. Like, they're usually like the getaway driver. They're like the little guy that's like, "Hey, you want me to go in and rob the bank with you?" It's like, "Nah, Muggsy, you stay out here where the radioactive explosion's going to happen." And then they get powers, and it's like they feel like the world owes them something, right? Spider-Man's the same way. He wasn't rich. He didn't have money. He got powers. What's the first thing he did? Who knows? Wrestling. He wanted to be a wrestler. He wanted to make some money, capitalize on his abilities. But as we all know, it cost him. And cost him the life of essentially his father. So this comic I chose, it's Amazing Spider-Man #9. And it's interesting because Peter Parker and Electro are put in the same situation. Aunt May is sick. She needs money. Peter doesn't have money. Electro has powers. With his great power, what's he doing? He wants more. He wants more money, right? Also, what color is his costume? It's not accident. It's not an accident. So it's. You were asking me why. Like, why choose Electro? He's kind of a weirdo. He's kind of like a C-lister, part of the Sinister Six, but he doesn't really show up all that much. I think he's important. I think it's important to see what you can do with power, right? It's a good metaphor, especially since this is for kids, right? This stuff was targeted to children. It's a great morality tale.
Well said. What would you say is your favorite iteration of Electro?
This one right here. Would you say?
Blue Electro.
Blue Electro.
Jamie Foxx.
I'm going to tell you right now. Jamie Foxx is so good that when I saw that movie, I did not have a problem with his performance, just the script. His performance is great because he totally nails the idea of somebody who's not, hey, how you doing? I'm a mob boss. What's going on? He's the guy on the street you're not thinking about. He's the guy that you don't pay attention to. He's a dude that you step by every day. You don't see him. You don't say hi. Maybe they're on the subway or whatnot. There's another slide I have. There it goes. Look at that lighting. That's perfect. It's like a spotlight, right? Like the one bad guy that we didn't talk about that Spider-Man has is life. That's the one that kicks him in the dick every day. And it's one that both his villains and him both have to fight against. And I think it's important to see that this is where Spider-Man's at. He's not in front of a bank safe. He's in front of his aunt who needs him, worrying about her, trying to figure out how he's going to solve the problems. So
I think out of all of the actors returning for the movie, I think I'm most excited to see Jamie Foxx granted, William Dafoe back as Green Goblin is going to be the shit.
Oh, yeah.
But getting to see Jamie Foxx reprise his role, and I feel like they're really kind of pushing him in the forefront as far as the marketing goes. But I'm really excited for him to kind of get a reprieve because I think he got a lot of crap.
I think he's playing a different version, like closer to this sort of version where it's going to be more of a chance to see him again. That man is a treasure. He's a treasure to watch. He's a true artist. So I'm looking forward to see what he brings to the table this time around. Because I don't think, my speculation, I don't think any of these Spider-Man bad guys are going to end up bad in the movie, except for the Green Goblin. Because they're all going to probably be like, this isn't our universe. What's going on here? Weird. It's my guess. I'll eat my words if I'm wrong.
Well, we're going to hold you to it. So.
I know you especially, Mr. up on the dais there.
Yes. You please me, see.
You sound like Bane. What is this?
See, as far as recommendations go, what would you say are some of the better or best Electro stories that kind of encapsulate some of these points that you've made?
Honestly, stick with this story. It's honestly, in my opinion, the best one. Amazing Spider-Man #9, for those who care. It's incredible. Like, the artwork is great. It's so dramatic. That panel is so dramatic. It's like, they don't got a light on in the hospital.
On this
like
Sin City.
Turn
looking at this stuff.
It looks like Frank Miller drew it. I think this issue right here is good because I think it's a good message that the temptation to put yourself above others at their expense is something that everyone goes through, and they're a liar if they say they haven't. We've all been Electro. We've all been Doc Ock. We've all been Sandman. And the good thing is we're all also Peter Parker.
Even me?
No.
Okay.
Too far gone.
You're the Green Goblin, dude. You're sitting. Dude, you're literally on a thing that's up there, and you're asking us questions like,
It's
Spider-Man.
It's like this in the studio too. It's not
guys,
specifically
this is how it
on the
is
show.
every time we record.
All right.
Please pray
Matt,
for us.
cut his mic off.
Please.
Do a sound bomb, something. Cut him off.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a great issue to start with, and it also is a good showcase because it's empowering, right? We all have the ability for compassion, charity, kindness, patience. All that stuff doesn't cost anything. You don't have to be rich. You don't got to knock over a bank to get it. So during the holidays, perfect.
Well said. Ashley, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most awesome, how awesome is Electro's headpiece? Go.
I'm going to give that a 10. I like it. I like it a
This
lot.
is amazing.
Ed, what are your thoughts on Electro? How does he rank for you as far as like being a Spider-Man baddie?
Honestly, before this impassioned speech by C, I thought he was kind of lame.
He is, though. You're right. You're 100% right. He is.
The lightning bolt mask is
Silly.
It's super silly. I never, and I haven't read enough of the character, and like I said, to really get into it. He seemed very, I'm the bad guy, rob a bank, very one-dimensional in my just passing, view of him. But like I said, he doesn't have the history like a lot of the other villains do. He doesn't have that, But it's, what you said makes complete sense. So I have to reread that and see.
Yeah, in that issue, it's great because you see what if you know of Spidey's origin, they don't go into it. They assume you already know, bit by a radioactive spider, lost Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here you also see Electro's origin story, and before he even has powers, he has the ability to save somebody's life, and totally like, nah, man, I'm on my smoke break. I'll see you later. And it's like, that's one of your coworkers. He's about to get fried. He's like, tough. You want to pay me extra to go up there? I'll do it. So it's like, okay, that says everything you need to know about somebody like Electro.
I'll be honest, I still like him for like the same reasons I liked him as a kid. Electrical powers. I'm like, yo, he shoots electricity out of his hands? Sign me up. Like, yo, that's the dude.
Aren't you like a freaking computer nerd? What was your major in?
I know.
I gotta keep an eye on you.
You set the bar really high. I don't want to follow up after that. So,
well, since we're setting the bar, Botter, what about your character?
Oh.
Who are you designated?
So I ended up going with the Lizard.
Wow.
Even though I really wanted to go Green Goblin, just so I could do the William Dafoe laugh.
Just do it anyway. Do it.
Spider-Man.
Thank you.
Finish it. Thank you.
Watch out, see? He's coming after your voice kick.
Oh, no.
I'm not scared.
I'm going to have Cesar do it later, and you'll see how a pro does it. But I ended up going the Lizard because I think out of all of the villains, he hasn't been always my favorite. And I think the movie didn't do much to win people over. So I wanted to do a deep dive to see maybe if maybe I really kind of honed in on his origin story and some of the comic books that I've kind of maybe glossed over, if that would change my opinion or give me a new sense of appreciation. And safe to say, absolutely. For just some background, the Lizard made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man number 6, 1963. So much like Doc Ock and a lot of these villains that we're talking about, he's one of Spider-Man's first and oldest villains. And like I said, one that I just, wasn't too familiar with. I know that my favorite iteration, I could definitely answer and say that it happens to be the animated series version that's voiced by actor Joseph Campanelli. I think he really kind of captures like both the monster and like the tenderness of the man. It's kind of a weird saying, but I'm going to run with it.
It's creepy when you say
it. It wasn't weird until you said something.
Yeah.
So then, now that you've answered that question rather creepily, what was the comic series that you read that, I don't know, like, what was the spotlight on your Rogue specifically that got you into, like, what comic series was like, oh man, this is it?
So I read two, and
that's enough. Okay, moving on.
All right, moving on. Got it. Okay. No, I ended up reading two. One of them I'll recommend at the end, but the one that really kind of won me over was his first appearance. And I mean, much to what Ed and Cesar are both saying, you can't go wrong with the original Stan Lee and Steve Ditko stuff. Yeah, it reads a little dated, but I think if you look past how it's a comic book from the early '60s is written. And look for like the story and the heart of it. Well, they got a lot of heart is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, like if you go into it knowing the context, right, that these were funny books made for kids, and they're tackling like heavy stuff, like my aunt is dying. There's a lizard man in the sewers of New York. Not too hard to think about, but like all that stuff is really, really heady. Can you imagine a little kid reading this? Like, no wonder it was so popular.
But I ended up reading his origin, and I thought it was both fun and in a very classic '60s zany comic book origin way, right? So the Lizard is down in Florida, the Everglades, at that.
He's a Florida man.
Yeah, exactly. He was the Florida man before the Florida Man, right? So he's in the Everglades, wrecking havoc, and J. Jonah Jameson decides to go ahead and take a pot shot at Spider-Man. Ends up printing a challenge for him in the Daily Bugle. The Daily Bugle challenges Spider-Man to fight the lizard in Florida, right? Like, how is Spider-Man going to get to Florida? But Peter ends up persuading J. Jonah Jameson to fly him down to Florida to take pictures of this battle royale. So when Spider-Man gets to the Everglades and finds the lizard, he gets defeated by him. But he ends up finding this house that's right where the lizard is kind of wreaking havoc. He goes into the house and he ends up meeting Kurt Connor's wife. Kurt Connors is the lizard himself, and you end up learning that Kurt Connors was a surgeon in the military who ends up losing his arm in an accident. And he's also like the lead, like a world-renowned scientist on herpetology, which is the study of lizards. And he's become obsessed with studying lizard DNA and reptiles, and his life's goal is to combine reptile DNA with human DNA and try to mimic a reptile's natural ability to regrow limbs. Not only does he want to cure his very outward-facing kind of deformity and amputation, but he also wants to help the world. So, he's a scientist that wants to help the world and also, help himself out as well.
Dude, I had no idea that he was a veteran, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Crazy.
But he ends up taking this, half-ass formula, and much like every, scientist in the, I guess, comic books in the 60s, he takes this formula that transforms him into this lizard humanoid creature. And when he's in the lizard form, he still has his mammal mind, right? So it's kind of like a constant battle for him to subdue like this very primal animalistic lizard brain that's in control at the moment and still maintain his humanity. And if you go to the next slide, Mass. Okay, real quick. So his whole shtick is that, when he is the lizard, he wants to rule the world by creating an army of lizards, by giving the serum to a bunch of other alligators and lizard homeboys and, just run the world. So that's kind of his whole shtick, right? But what I love about it is that once again, it's kind of this constant pull between his Kurt Connors mind and the lizard mind. So at times, the lizard speaks as if he's Kurt Connors, and it's Kurt Connors' love of his family, his wife and his son Billy, that really anchors his humanity. So there's kind of like that interesting dichotomy that's going on.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
So how does your rogue challenge Spider-Man as a physical, mental, or emotional threat?
So there's a lot of parallels between the two, much like, you were saying about Doc Ock, Ed, is that, you got the science angle, both being men of science, both of them getting their powers through science in some sort of way. I think in the Lizard's case, you've also got, both between him and Spider-Man, they both have the respective, both of them inherent powers that mimic their respective animal totems and things like that. But Connor's situation is a little more extreme, where he's an actual lizard. Spider-Man is a guy that happens to have the powers of a spider. So you've got that. You got a physical threat. So not only is the lizard very strong, he's got diamond, a hard skin and whatnot, but you've also got an emotional battle that's going on. Because at the end of the lizard's first appearance, Spider-Man ends up finishing the formula for the lizard to transform him back to Kurt Connors. And, he's so moved by this man who's, he's a good man. He just made a mistake and took a really bad formula. Took some bad, he took some
bad drugs.
Yeah, some bad drugs.
Some bad drugs.
That he ends up telling him, I'll keep your secret and, everything should be good now. Well, later on in the comic books, when Peter Parker goes to college, he ends up studying under Kurt Connors. And he helps him on the side to develop formulas to, completely get rid of the lizard. So, he gets to know him really well. And of course, things never go as planned. So not only does, Peter kind of build that bond with him, but he knows the family. He knows the son. So Peter and Peter Parker and Spider-Man are always in this position of, how do I stop the lizard without doing harm to him or myself? I know that there's a good, decent,
good, decent man. There's a talented scientist in there that wants to do right, but he's in this pretty bad, bad situation. He's got this curse on him.
Dude, and I was just thinking about it, and I didn't realize that panel's so freaking cool.
Yeah, when lizards cry.
Dude,
I think Prince
this is
had a
what
song
happens
about
when
it.
lizards cry, man.
I want to hear that Prince song.
Dude, well, think about this, man. I just now I'm like sound like a fucking stoner. I swear I'm clean right now. Both of these guys, Spider-Man and the Lizard, right? And we've all kind of touched on it that these villains are all some sort of weird mirror reflection of their, the hero, right? Just like slightly tilted one way or the other, oscillating bad in some way, right? This guy represents if Spider-Man forgets about his family, right? Because while both their changes were unstable, what's the one thing that is stability in their life? What's the one thing that anchors both the hero and the villain in this story?
We are family.
Big time. Yeah. That's great. All this is in a little kid's book from the 60s. Come on, people. Come on now. Somebody say amen.
Amen. Yeah, and I think I think that's what makes Spider-Man's villains really unique. And some of the best to me is that there's that sympathy level. You can feel for these guys. Yeah, their motives are get money or rule the world or whatever it may be, but they're just hurt people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and I think
Lil Wayne.
Which is
what? So let me ask you this then. So you touched a little bit about how he was portrayed in the movies. Do you like what's that?
Okay.
Do you like the way he was portrayed? Because there's more than one portrayal of the Lizard in the films.
Yeah. So I ended up watching Amazing Spider-Man, the first one from 2012, and it stars. And Rhys Ifans, I think that's how you say his name, plays Dr. Kurt Connors in the Lizard in the movie, and I thought he did a great job of capturing like Connors' confidence as well as his drive when it comes to like science and wanting to help the world, while also balancing like that sense of like self-consciousness when it comes to like him missing an arm. I thought he did a really good job of making you feel like, man, this dude's really smart, but at the same time he's got he's self-conscious too. I think where the movie version of the Lizard kind of dropped the ball is that they didn't have his family in it, and I think that's a very big part of like winning you over about the Lizard. Because what ended up happening was he ends up becoming this flat-faced, naked CGI monster. That's, he's got the drive. He wants to make the world all into lizards, but it's kind of one-dimensional at that point. Like had they included just his son at that, or even a wife or something, I think he would have. I think he would have been represented a lot better. And my hopes for seeing him back in the movies aren't that high because they're not going to be able to work that in. But what I will say is the cartoon version does include his family and does include that tragic story. So that's why he's kind of like my favorite version of the Lizard.
Would you say that's your recommendation, or do you have any more?
Well, my recommendation would be I've got two of them. First up,
Todd. The Todd Father.
Yeah. So this first one, so this is the other series I ended up reading outside of the origin, and this is one of my favorites for the exact same reasons I said the movie didn't do so well or win me over. This is a 1990 series by Todd McFarlane, our boy Todd McFarlane, Uncle Todd.
All hail.
Exactly. One of the best comic book artists and comic or entrepreneurs in comic books of all time. His story's great. We did a spotlight on him, but in 1990, at the height of his career, and Todd McFarlane, made his name drawing Spider-Man and Hulk and a whole bunch of other characters. But I think it's safe to say his Spider-Man is what really propelled him into stardom in the comic book space. Well, he was getting so popular that Marvel needed to figure out ways to keep him on board, and Todd was able to leverage, well, I want to launch my own Spider-Man series, and I want to write that series too. So this is what you get is these the first 5 issues of his 1990 series is called Torment. It's heavily focused on the Lizard. Granted, the writing isn't the best, but I'm telling you right now, the art in it is some of the best versions of Spider-Man I've ever seen.
Since
drawn.
Ditko.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. And granted, in this version, you kind of see if you decide. Here's what I'll say: if you wake up one morning and you decide to choose violence instead of being a good-hearted human, go ahead and read Torment, because it's the Lizard completely unchained. You know, Kurt Connor's mind is no longer in control at all, or it's not even there at all. It's the Lizard at his very base, primal reptilian self. He's just a animalistic killing machine. But yeah, the art is fantastic. And the other thing I'll recommend, though, is the first episode of the 1994 Spider-Man animated series. I mean, the first episode is literally called Night of the Lizard. And in that 25 minute maybe episode, you get everything you need to know about Lizard. And that's something I'll say about all of the villains we spotlight. That animated series, for me personally, was the reason I became a die-hard Spider-Man fan. I mean, how many of you in here have loved that show maybe as much as I do? Yeah, a good bit of hands. Like, every episode does such a good job of giving you a whole character's story and plot point. So I'll recommend that.
Joe Perry from Aerosmith to do the theme song.
Nice.
Yeah. So all in all, picking Lizard was a lot of fun, learning all of the different things about him and whatnot.
Cool, man. It's great.
Now, see, I think at this point, I have a feeling by now that most people have probably noticed that a distinct lack of coverage on one of Spider-Man's best villains.
Right.
A certain cackling, maniacal psychopath that likes to dress up as a colorful imp. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, but Ryan Thompson isn't here right now, so I don't see... Oh, there he is!
I think all of you probably know who we're
Roasted you!
I think all of you know who we're probably talking about now, and that is the Green Goblin himself. See, what are your thoughts on Green Goblin? Because you've shared some pretty cool analysis with me when it comes
you said fruity cool, and I was like, I mean, I could go for a market.
I'm like, yo, run with it. Yo, a fruity cool analysis.
I'm leaning hard into it.
Of Green Goblin that I always appreciated when it comes to what makes Green Goblin one of Spider-Man, if not his best villain.
I was about to say a little bit peeking behind the curtain. All I have to do to get Botter on my side with anything is just be like, "Hey man, let's talk about Spider-Man real quick."
I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you're absolutely right."
We're
What's
like,
going
"Oh my
on?
god, this is awesome! This is amazing!
This is amazing.
I just want people drunk by the end of this episode, essentially. But I think we had a conversation about like what the antithesis of a superhero is and what the arch enemy of a villain is, right? So like the difference would be like, let's say if you're talking about Batman, right? His antithesis would be Bane, because essentially they're the same guy, right? Whereas his arch enemy would be the Joker, because they're the complete opposite. I sound like Mr. Glass from freaking Unbreakable right now. I promise I'm not going to do anything horrible. But this guy, you know, like I guess for Spider-Man, his antithesis would be somebody like Venom, right? They got the same job, and there, but for the grace of God, they had the same outfit for a little bit. Green Goblin's kind of like the arch nemesis, like big time. Like he is the opposite of Peter. Like Peter doesn't have money. Norman Osborn's really rich. Peter, again, his power sort of came kind of organically, sort of an accident. Like Norman's like, I want to get juiced. And, you know, when these comics came out, bear in mind, this is the times, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko got a lot of flack for making Spider-Man have a mask over his entire face. They're like, only criminals do that, is what the editors more or less said. And they're like, come on, the whole point is that anybody could be Spider-Man. Can we just get over this whole thing? And they went with it. So Spider-Man essentially dresses up like a criminal every night and saves people's lives, whereas the Green Goblin dresses up like somebody who looks like he'd be at a child's party and tries to murder people every night. So I think it's really cool
with
dynamic.
Pumpkin bombs.
Right, with pumpkin bombs.
Weird.
It's, you know, he's a little bit basic. He likes pumpkin stuff, so.
Stan Lee and Steve Ditko bumped heads a lot over Green Goblin. And it was eventually ended up leading to Steve Ditko leaving Spider-Man at some point. Stan Lee wanted Green Goblin to be like a Egyptian kind of mythological villain, and Steve Ditko was like, yo, that's stupid. Let me just run with it. Let's see what else. Stan Lee wanted Green Goblin to also be someone that Peter knew. Steve Ditko wanted to be a completely new person, of course. Stan Lee got his way over that. But one interesting thing about his first appearance is that
we're used to seeing Green Goblin in his traditional Goblin glider, but when he first started out, my man had a broomstick that he was riding around.
It's like Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's what I thought it looked like too. A broomstick.
It's like a muffler. Or yeah.
But the reception to Green Goblin was so popular at the time that, unlike some of these other, and I think eventually all of these villains that we're talking about got the same treatment, but the reception to Green Goblin was really exceptional, that they decided to keep his identity under wraps for quite a few issues. I don't think you end up learning his identity till like number 19 or something to that effect. But see, I wanted to ask you, are you in the same boat as me when it comes
Yes, I used to draw a lot of broomsticks as a child.
Oh, jeez.
Is that? Oh, no. I wasn't going to. That's not what I was going to hit.
Well, I want to go one more over, Mass.
Oh,
so
here we go. Let's change the subject.
I wanted to ask, are you in the same, and all of you actually, Ed and Ashley, are you guys in the same boat as me when it comes to, I think Green Goblin is probably best story is also happens to be Spider-Man's like most tragic moment. I think you could probably make a pretty strong argument for in the comic books, which is that 2-issue run, number 121 and 122, that debuted in 1973, the night Gwen Stacy died.
Oh my God! Of course, man. Yeah, like you said those comics should just be called Dick Move, man. Like it's so heart-wrenching to read because it's. Oh my God! I've seen this image, and this is Alex Ross, right? If I'm not mistaken, obviously. And so it's so iconic. It's almost like religious imagery, like when you see something that iconic, it's like, oh, a moment of silence, please. It's the night Gwen Stacy died. Please, please. Moment of silence. Moment of silence. Yeah. Like I saw that, and I was kind of like,
Ed, where does Green Goblin rank for you?
Sorry.
Like I said, until I read this story, I thought he was a joke. That outfit with the bare legs and the purple, with the curly boots, it was ridiculous. But like I said,
taking shots at you, Botter.
I'm used to it by now.
But you can't argue that it's Green Goblin, Venom, and Doc Ock are like the three arch nemesis. If you want to. Like 1A, 1B, and 1C. Yeah. But I think, especially with this kind of puts him at the top spot just because he's involved with this story. So he kind of grew on me. I thought he was weird, and he had so many weird like spin-off characters. Like as much as Venom, it's like there's Hobgoblin,
Demo Goblin,
Jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of weird Halloween, Spirit of Halloween rejects kind of riding his coattails. But it's. Yeah, he's like I said, he's I think when most people, before the movies and stuff came out, that's who they associate Spider-Man with.
That's a very good point. I think between him and Venom, well, actually the three you just named, but I think Venom for sure. A lot of people.
Yeah, after the '90s, it was Venom because for sure.
Yeah. Ashley, what do you think about Green Goblin's portrayal in the movie by our boy, by maybe the Good call, Warren. Good call. But what do you think about William Dafoe's portrayal as Green Goblin in the movies?
Well, I think just William Dafoe in general is just unsettling to me, at least. So I think in the movie, he's absolutely terrifying.
Just chews up every scene he's in.
He just chills me to the core.
Can you give us your rendition of one of his laughs?
What are you doing right now?
I'm stalling
Put
time.
me on the spot.
Oh, I see. Ashley, you're on the clock.
Yeah. See, did you happen to know that Green Goblin was? Yeah. Did you happen to know that Green Goblin was not the first villain to unmask Spider-Man? Which I always thought was a unique angle to Green Goblin, is that he's definitely the most prominent to know his identity. And anytime they would have like dinner, Norman Osborn and Peter Parker would have dinner together. Like, even I think they captured it in the movies really well. Like where they're having Thanksgiving and Norman already kind of knows Peter Parker's, Spider-Man.
Right.
What do you think about that aspect as far as like having your worst enemy know your secret identity?
Well, it sucks because it's his best friend's dad.
That too.
Like Harry's like one of the homies from like back in the day, and you now come to the realization that this murderous psychopath that you've been fighting for God knows how many issues is your best friend's father, and like you've had like sleepovers at this guy's house, essentially, you know, like you were, you know, like, all right, kids, now it's time to go to bed. Yes, Mr. Osborn. Like that sort of relationship. And then like 10 years later, he's like, ha ha ha, Spider-Man. And, you know, he's got DID, you know, trying to throw a pumpkin bomb at your head. It's just crazy. I feel like when other villains know who Spider-Man is, it's not as creepy or weird because, like Ashley said, that it only solidifies in their mind that, oh, he's kind of like me. And if I don't like him, it's because someone's putting a mirror up to my face and saying, you could be better. And if they're ever in a jam, they'll be like, hey, you're a good dude. I need your help. With the Green Goblin, he don't need anybody's help. And he's freaking Looney Tunes. And the fact that he knows who Spidey is bad news. Obviously, he killed the love of his life.
Yeah. Can you explain that hairdo, though?
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either.
I really
Does
don't.
everybody know what was going on with that hair?
I have, man. If anybody knows, ask.
It's like
John
sideways
Romita Sr.
cornrows, but sideways.
Kinda.
It's weird.
It's cool looking. Waves for days. Who said that? It's like Norman Osborn had a wave cap on and then put the Green Goblin costume on, and he was like, "All right, looking sweet."
All right, listeners, we were going to do a trivia, but we're getting pressed for time. So I definitely don't want to gloss over maybe the one segment on this show that I'm most excited for you guys to see. So we're going to wrap up this recording fairly quickly, and we're going to pass it to C to introduce the teaser trailer.
Oh.
But I did want to go ahead and address the listeners that I want to hear from them. You know, I want to hear what they thought about this episode. I also want to hear who your favorite rogue is, because when it comes to Spider-Man's rogue gallery, I mean, the 5 we covered is just a fraction of his total rogues. And I mean, you could go on and on about some of his best ones. Hell, I mean, Green Goblin alone deserves his own episode. But I'll look to our listeners and say, you know, we want to hear about your favorite rogue gallery. Write us something to read next episode. Hit us up on our social media. And speaking of next episode, it'll probably have something to do with the movie. So make sure that you grab your tickets just in time. And if you are here in Jacksonville and are going to see the movie at Sunray at 6:30 on Thursday, me and C will be introducing the film. We'll be doing some giveaways and whatnot. So hopefully catch you guys there. Stay up to date with what we got going on by following us on social media. And most importantly, take care of yourselves, all right? Have a great day. And please continue to make mine and yours short box. We'll talk to you soon. And if you want to catch the trailer that will be premiering here in this amazing planetarium, I'll have a link to that in our YouTube. Listeners that are here with us, I can't thank you guys enough. I'd like to give you guys a round of applause.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing, all right? Thank you for kicking it with us. C, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Mass, if you want to get that trailer ready, buddy.
Sure. Okay, I'll make this short and sweet. For the longest time, we have been racking our brains on how we can burn ourselves out even more for your benefit. That is what we do. And whenever Botter and I feel like, man, I'm just feeling really burned out, we just go, sweet. What else can we do? How much can we freaking spread ourselves thin for the listener? Well, we are trying to get a documentary off the ground for you guys to show all the questions, all the dirty laundry, all the gross stuff that you ever wanted to know what goes on behind the scenes at the Short Box. This is what that documentary will be. So without further ado, I give you this trailer.
And that's what we got for you this week, Shortbox Nation. The live show ended with us premiering the trailer for the upcoming Shortbox documentary movie, Famous and Faceless, Rise of the Shortbox Podcast. Of course, that portion of the night doesn't really translate that well into podcast form. So I invite all of you to take 2 short minutes right now and click the link in this episode's show notes to see it for yourself and tell us what you think, all right? Cesar has been working really hard on this, and it's a project unlike anything we've done before. I think you'd really enjoy it, all right? In the meantime, I want to thank everyone that was involved with the live show, from our sponsors, Gotham City Limit and Black Hive Tattoo, to people like DJ Massapil and Ryan Paul Thompson from GAM for helping us make it happen. And a really big shout out to everyone that could make it in person. It was awesome to see the Shortbox Nation show up in full force. And honestly, my heart grew 3 sizes bigger that night. So thank you to everyone that showed up. But this is the end of our show this week. We'll try to have a Spider-Man No Way Home reaction episode up later this weekend. So stay tuned for that. But until then, peace. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.